Was good, y'all? BeatGenerals.com back with a brand new tutorial. And this tutorial will basically be closing out the series with a Lil Yachty tutorial. So this is just something a little bit kind of more happy type sounding, kind of feel good type vibe. Right now he dropped a couple songs that sound a little bit different than that. Now he has a song with Party Next Door. It's actually really dope, but it's actually just really catchy. If you haven't heard that, check that out. But this was kind of based more on his mixtape and the more happy sounding stuff. So if we need to update the tutorial in a couple weeks, couple months, whatever, just let me know. We'll make sure we'll update a new one if his sound drastically changes. I'm also going to go ahead and drop this Lil Uzi Vert tutorial. This is just a bonus beat that I made that kind of had that Lil Uzi vibe, and some people were asking about making a Lil Uzi beat that had kind of more of an aggressive lead type sound. So that's that other beat, so make sure you look out for that tutorial as well. But without further talking, let's go ahead and jump into this beat. So I started this track off with patch 70 from OVO The Dynasty Volume 2 from studiosounds.com. The patch is called the KB Soulful Wurlitzer. It's like an EP type sound. I like to start beats off with like EPs or kind of calm type pad sounds because I can play kind of whatever with them and it doesn't really push me in a certain directions. Like I don't really usually start with very aggressive or very hard type sounds, harsh type sounds, just because later on it's hard to layer stuff into that because it is so kind of abstract and different. But if you start off with something kind of like this, it's easier to build just because it's such kind of a plain background type sound that it fits in a lot of different situations. So this is what I start off with. My BPMs are 138. Set this to half beat, and I'm going to just lay down 4 chords real quick. Pretty simple, and we probably don't even need both of those in there. Just grab the first one. It's the same thing, just repeating. Do a tools quick legato, just stretch that out a little bit. And this is basically what we have right here. So the first chord is A sharp, D sharp, G. Repeat that. A sharp, D, F. Repeat that. G, C, D sharp, repeat that, and then A sharp, D, and F again, just repeat that. And here's what it sounds like. So let's go ahead and just turn these all the way up, and then we're going to go to tools, scale levels, and turn them down. This way we can just make sure they're all even. We don't have to go in here and do this manually. And we want to just make sure they're right about here since this is velocity sensitive, so we have kind of a nice background type sound. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and assign a free mixer track. So just click track, it'll be assigned for you. We're going to go ahead and throw a reverb on here just to give it a bigger type sound and also just soften it up slightly, so a reverb can kind of help wash out a sound slightly. So that's kind of the thinking here. And we're going to turn the wet up to probably around 80, and then we're going to turn the decay up as well, probably like 2.83 seconds, so it lingers a little bit but isn't crazy either. So we have something like this now. And now we're going to go ahead and put a parametric EQ on here. And this EQ is just more to shape the sound a little bit. We want to get rid of that low end kind of frequency. This is going to be more of kind of a mid type sound. So we're going to just go ahead and trim that low end off of it. And then also I feel like it's slightly a little bit bright on the top end. So I'm just going to go ahead and roll off those frequencies as well. And then we have something like this. Okay, so cool kind of has a nice little presence, nice little background. So this is kind of what I'm going to build on top of. So let's jump into the next section, continue. So the next sound that I picked is from OVO The Dynasty Volume 2 as well. It's 126, the PL Bellish Plucks. And basically, if you go into the piano roll and you have, I believe it's in the helper sections, ghost channels. If you have ghost channels turned on, you'll basically see all the other notes in your pattern, so we can see what our chords are. So at this point, I already kind of knew the chords, but I want to just kind of switch it up. Usually I like to play stuff in, but you know, I decided to just switch my workflow up a little bit. So I decided to kind of basically just pick notes that I saw in here with the chords and just kind of lay a little melody in using those. So this is kind of what I came up with. And then over here, we're just going to add this. So I laid in a little pattern like this, as you can see, just playing the notes from the chord. So just a really simple way to kind of add a melody. And here's what it sounds like. And I like this sound. It adds a nice melodic touch, but it's still kind of muted a little bit on the top end, so it kind of helps that smooth vibe that I'm going for. I wanted just something that kind of felt good, but still had a smooth type vibe, a little bit more happier than what your average beat would be. So this kind of fit that whole theme, so I thought it sounded good in here. And as you can see, it was a really simple melody to kind of program in, just using the chord notes, and you know, it actually sounds pretty good. So let's jump in the next section, continue. So the next thing that I'm going to add in here is Sound 136, the Jade T pluck from OVO The Dynasty Volume 2. And I'm going to just basically add 2 chords with this. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. So I basically just added 2 chords that are in the actual first chord progression that we put in. So the first and the third chord is what I'm using in here. Just kind of highlight a little bit and just make these little sections a little bit different. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually transpose this probably up 1 octave. So let's go ahead, hit Control and our up arrow. Okay, and here's what it sounds like. So that's what that sounds like, 2 simple chords. They just kind of add a nice touch right there at the beginning, especially with that little delay sound. And I just kind of like the little bit of the harshness that this kind of has compared to these other 2 sounds. It's kind of a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more jagged in the tone versus these a little bit softer. So I just kind of like that balance between the 2. So that was the kind of thinking of this. And one thing I want to talk about real quick that I just kind of thought of, but it just might kind of inspire some of you guys, is like when you're making melodies, if you guys take a look at this chord right here, this is technically just a C minor chord, but just the G is transposed down. So a lot of you guys probably already know this, but you can basically arrange a chord however you'd like. Like if I play these 3 notes, right? So I could play a G up here, still a C minor, play a G down here, it's still a C minor, play it down here. And this applies to the other notes as well. I could play, this can be a C minor chord and things of that nature. And one thing that I really like to do with kind of transposing chords and stuff like that is like you can get these really easy melodies by just doing that. So if I like, let's say I keep these 2 notes right here, I could start something like, but just kind of changing that little top note and keeping these 2 is just a really easy way to build little melodies. Travis Scott kind of style stuff. You can kind of build a lot of stuff by just basically just changing this little top note and just basically using the other 2 notes in the chord. And you can arrange this how you want, and it works with pretty much every single chord and every single scale. So just if you're ever stuck with melodies or something like that, try that out. It helps me out a lot of times. So I hope that helps. Let's jump to the next section, continue. So the next thing that I'm using in here is True Pianos. I'm using the diamond section, and I'm using the classical preset. I have the release set to 51, and I have my reverb all the way up. So the release is just gonna make sure the notes linger slightly. You see how they don't just automatically cut off versus here they're just gonna cut off real short. And that little tail end you're gonna be hearing is from the reverb. So actually just turn the reverb off for a second just so we can compare. Okay, so that's a really short release. It just cuts off, and then if we just turn it up, you see how it lingers. So setting the release slightly higher, I find kind of humanizes pianos versus, you know, the shorter it is, the release is on it, can kind of make it sound a little bit more cheap. So just a quick little tip, and let's go ahead and turn this up as well. And now I'm going to be adding these little high piano sounds. This was kind of inspired by the little drum song that he has, Broccoli. It's kind of everywhere, that little high piano. So that's kind of where this came from. So let's go ahead and lay this down. Okay, so we kind of have just a nice bright piano on the top end. And what we're going to do is just go in here and do a Tools quick legato just to make them a little bit longer. Like I said, I do want that little lingering. That's kind of why we played with the release a little bit too. So just making them slightly longer will also kind of help accentuate that. Give this last note. Okay, the next thing I'm going to add is just add like a nice little strum to them, so it sounds a little bit more natural as well. So other than the drums, this is kind of basically the verse, other than some drops in the drums. I thought this sounded pretty good. I didn't feel like it needed anything more for the verse. The hook is going to be a little bit more melodic, but it's going to be based off of the same little bass. So let's jump in the next section and continue.